The new Microsoft Agent Lighting um, open source Python package is still in very early stages. It's version zero point 0.2 at the moment. I already can see the potential of using it. It is going to be amazing because they are actually addressing something that I've been waiting for some time now. I've been intending to dive in myself, but they've now made it much, much easier for me to look into how to drive value from continuously training agents. So LLMs on their own are definitely very empowering. They're an amazing technology, but so far the uses that I've seen are mainly to do with I will make things work more efficiently or widen the scope of your capabilities of being creative. Absolutely. Uh, and giving context, giving access to your information, to your data, to your tools, significantly enhances the efficiency of how tasks can be done. The holy grail, though, is actually getting to a point where I can use the agentic paradigm to have context-driven recommendation engine, um, use it to do optimal decisions or guide decision makers to make optimal decisions. And I believe that this new package brings us much, much closer to that. So, just high level view of how I see this working at the moment. We've got agents, and this package does not come with an agentic paradigm. It just uses whatever agentic tools we already have, such as semantic kernel and so forth. Uh, Obviously, we've got the agent prompt and the base model behind the agent and the tools that we provided the agent or the agentic team. The user gives a prompt, gives an instruction, and gets a response back. Now, on top of this, on the side, the package has a capability of training this agent or agentic team. It comes with some internal memory and traces and all sorts of nice things that are important. But the way to think about it is kind of any optimization paradigm that we have. Two cases of optimization tools or paradigms that you know are um, genetic algorithms, for instance, or reinforcement learning. Both of them need a way to know whether a recommendation and action based on a particular context has resulted in a valuable or not so valuable decision. So the first thing you need is an evaluation, and part of this is an evaluator tool that also could be an LLM of its own or something that we built ourselves. So it could use its own base model. It calculates a reward and an assessment of how good the response was. So the response doesn't need to be a classification or number, it could be a whole set of text. And the evaluator says, what you give me is exactly what I wanted, or quite far away from what I wanted. So there has to be an engine that takes that reward and decides on more test cases of how can I try and improve the agent to do better. So it has to send it more cases with suggestion to improvement. And so we've got tasks, and we constantly in every iteration, and we iterate a few times, every iteration we generate a few tasks. And in those tasks, we try out one way we can do it is improve the prompt. So there's one subset of algorithms that specialize in improving the prompts. They're quite amazing. And the other one is using reinforcement learning fine tuning to actually change the base model to learn how to respond better itself, which is mind blowing. So, what kind of use cases we can envision. Um, First of all, at the moment, the way I see it, we need to have some text as the contextual framework or entry of this is where what is the decision going to be based on. There has to be some action like, oh, I'll classify this in a particular way, I'll make a decision about this in a particular way, or I'll use a tool based on my decision, like room booking or so forth. And there's an outcome, and based on that outcome, or outcomes, this is important. They could have several outcomes, and you could apply this to try and get, I need to figure this out still, uh, multi-target optimization, which will make me no end happy. Uh, and of course, it makes sense to use this when you've got a dynamic and complex system. So you can't just do it in one training. As cases come in, you continuously add them, add to the knowledge, and retrain and improve it from go to go, from batch to batch. So I've tried to envision a few cases. So one of them is, for instance, SKU identification. Supplier sends me a list and says, here's what I'm sending you, but they just give me text, and I need from those texts to identify actually the text description of the product. I need to identify for each line of text, could be quite short, what actually is the SKU that matches in my system, in my database. Or candidate matching. I look at people's CVs, I look at the job description, and I can start learning and improving how do I match candidates to successful job placements. Yes, there are already systems that are doing this, but imagine you can do this in a continuous way, constantly learning, adapting to how the market evolves and changes, how terms evolve and change as we go along. Another example that you might consider classical, but if you stop and think about it, we've never really managed to have something which is dynamic and adaptive. We have to, even when we use LLMs to do this, we still end up with certain levels of rule-based at the end. So we use the LLM to identify what's in the context, but then we go to a rule-based engine. Imagine the identification of the context immediately translates to a dynamic decision of what to do in routing of calls, routing of emails, and so forth. I worked once on a case where in a bank where specialized agents were recommending to their high-value clients certain readings every morning that will help them make decisions on their investments. This could really, really crack it and make it really personalized. It will have to get this to work. One will need to wrap also the agent lightning in a certain solution architecture that will enable that. I'll get to it in a second. And in insurance or reinsurance, you get loads of documents. Based on those documents, of course, also hard data. But based on those documents, one needs to make decisions, one needs to make submissions or read submissions and make decisions based on those submissions. And the decisions could be proposed to the actuaries or the analysts in a much faster way that also encompasses everything. And it's more than just a RAG solution that tells you what's inside the document. It also gives reasoning and suggestions. So I said I'll talk a little bit about how to integrate this. So it's a solution architecture at a very high level. So of course you need to start with an agentic layer, somewhere where you store the base models, security around the base models, monitoring of the base models, cost monitoring, and due diligence and governance. A layer that allows you to do an agentic team, nowadays also with MCP, and all the goodies of orchestration and so forth, and tool provisioning. And Agent Lightning sits in here together with them and on top of them if you want. But this is not sufficient. This is just the basic tools. To make this work really, one needs to have a way to collect those cases that will give me the feedback. So each time an agent gets context, makes a recommendation, and there's an outcome, we need to collect it so we have another set of information, another batch of data to do another training. So imagine maybe the training happens every night. So I need the daily information to come in so as I can retrain during the night and make the agent even better. So imagine the situation where somebody asks a question, the agent responds, and then the person also gives a feedback saying, this response did not work for me, or it wasn't accurate enough, and this is not what I was looking for. Put that in the training data, send it back. So one needs to have also some coordination of the scheduling and monitoring of that, and the cost, of course, and due diligence and governance. And once you have that, you need to be able to have some version control, both for the base models that you are fine-tuning and for the agents that you're constantly changing the prompts for. So if something goes wrong in one of the trainings, you can, first of all, identify where it went wrong, and secondly, you can revert to an older version. Good old CI/CD, but for agents. And of course, if you are in production, you need to have some way to monitor that you're getting good decisions and that everything is hunky-dory, or that you should be worried and you should intervene. Always human in the loop somewhere. I was actually considering putting on this slide a big picture of a human saying, human in the loop. And to enable the human in the loop, obviously one needs a console on a user interface to do that. I'm really excited. And not only that, but I'm already starting to, even though I haven't mastered this fully yet, and there's a lot that I need to do to scratch the surface and see where the developers in Microsoft Research take this, because I think they're going to do much more. I wonder if I can actually use it to identify causal relationships, and therefore construct knowledge graphs behind that in a very wise and effective and impactful way, so as they can drive RAG-based solutions, for instance. As a statistician, I'm constantly wondering if I can actually take structured data and feed it in and get meaningful insights more than what Copilot does at the moment. More structured statistical thinking and application of more sophisticated relationship identification. And my gut feeling says that there must be something here also around computer vision, not just identifying better classification of images. That we're there. That's not a problem. But the context. So is this a fish that is swimming upstream or downstream? Is this a bird that is nesting? Do I see the bird with chicklets because I see that it's got food in its mouth, fish, and so forth? I'm sure there's much more that we can do with this. And the point is, this is where the high value lies. Making the decisions rather than just automating processes is where we impact the revenue and reduce costs significantly. So thank you very much for listening. There's a lot to follow up with these packages for Microsoft Research. Obviously, caveat is that this is a package that is in Microsoft Research. It's not in production yet.